Hey everyone, I'm Tim and I'm from Dutch Line Customizing. Next to me is the new Thermaltake View 37 chassis. It's being released today, the day that this video is uploaded. I'm going to do a case mod with it for DreamHack Summer in Sweden. But before that I thought I would take a spin around the chassis and see what it's all about, what's new. I mean, a lot of things are known to be like this in Thermaltake chassis, but it is some new things as well. Now, first of all, before I actually get to the chassis, I want to talk about the controller. This is the new LED controller that comes with this chassis. If you have been working with Thermaltake ring fans, or ring plus fans I have to say, up until now, the first ring fans had a controller like this with buttons on it. After that they became controllers that were software controlled. And this is kind of a mix in between. So this is the RGB version of the chassis, and it comes with three 140mm fans. Two in the front, one in the rear, all ring plus RGB fans. And this is a controller for exactly those three fans. It is SATA powered, which is great compared to the old 4-pin ones. You can set the fan speed as well with this controller. You can pair multiple ones. I mean, you can't. There's a lot of room in this chassis for fans, but you know, with the open top, there's less than in a general case or chassis, I would say. But next to the option to have it to touch the buttons on here, they added a PCI slot bracket, also with the same buttons that you can attach through a wire for a cable to this controller. Basically it works the same then, but this is on the inside of the chassis, so you can't reach it easily, and this is on the rear, so you can reach it easily, which is, I think, it kind of, yeah, it's a good option. You know, you don't have to open up the chassis to set the fan speed difference or put another color on. So that's a good idea. Next to this, it's also possible with these kind of cables to just adjust it with your motherboard header, the RGB lighting, and there's a cable that comes and that plugs to your motherboard PWM. So basically you won't need the buttons at all. You need a RGB header on the motherboard that controls all the RGB lighting on the fans, and you can set the speed through the motherboard options with the PWM header. So that's nice. I think it's great to, especially with the motherboards nowadays, you have a nice medium to high end motherboard. There's a lot of motherboards out there that have all these options, and they have great software that works with it. So you know, why would you not use those? So that's very nice. Now I'm going to move away from this, put the chassis in the spotlight, and we'll have a walk around it together. So let's take a spin around this chassis. Everything is still mounted on right now. As you can see, the main thing about this chassis is the plexiglass curved window, which makes it completely visible for everything that you put in the chassis. All the hardware is very visible. You know, and that's, I think, is the choice you make with the chassis. The layoff is that in this part, the top part of the chassis, you now cannot mount any fans, so you have less options to get your airflow going, or to mount water cooling or all-in-one water cooling hardware. The chassis, when it comes in, it actually has in the box this extra bracket to keep everything in place and to make sure that you don't get any you know, damage on it through the delivery. Let's take a small spin around. This is plexiglass, it's not tempered glass. The front panel is also plexiglass. On the sides of the front you have the intakes. On the inside of those are fan dust filters. On this side there's the opening, something I'll show you later. On the inside of this, if you take this as an entrance for air, an inlet, there's also a dust filter behind it. It's a metal and the rear is quite standard. There's there's a lot of PCI slots. That's I think also because of the fan controller. Your PSU and a 120 or 140 meter bracket. And nowadays you see a lot of Thermaltake chassis, and that's the option to mount your graphics card vertically. Especially with a lot of glass like this, it's perfect to show it off like that. The panel is actually fitted with 2 thumb screws, so it's not really hinged. It's just something you can slide off and take off like that. I'm going to put this away for a second so we can talk about the chassis itself. So as you can see, it actually is a quite high chassis. Right now there are 2 140 millimeter fans in it. There's even some spacing between them. I think if you really give it a try and you put this lower, now you could mount a 420 millimeter radiator in there. I'm not sure what happens to these cables then. I'm not sure if the chassis is designed to actually hold that kind of a radiator in the front. So I guess that's what for all your case models out there. You can see the 2 fans here and the 140 millimeter in the rear. There is a bracket here for hard drives. It's the same similar bracket you can see in a lot of other chassis, and this is the bracket for the vertical mounted graphics card. It does not come with the PCI riser. I would recommend if you use this one that you buy a premium PCI riser. One of them would be the Thermaltake premium PCI riser cables. It fits perfectly in this, and it holds your graphics card firm. So if you take your system to a LAN party, then you know it won't fall off halfway if you're driving over some bumps. I will take the rear panel off now as well. The thumb screws actually stay in there, so that's really nice. I'm going to show you the rear of the chassis. So you see there's a lot of rubber grommets for cables, a big one down here for the PSU cables, which is always needed. It comes with a couple of extra brackets for hard drives. Basically you can put 1 3.5 inch there, or 2 like setup once if you want to, which I think is great. Here is another 2 of those brackets. So you can mount a lot of hard drives if you want, but do remember, if you use this side, I'm going to talk about that as well, as a portion of the where you can mount a radiator or outlet fans, then the hard drives will block the exhaust for that. I love it in a lot of Thermaltake chassis, and it's the same one in this, is that there is a lot of room for cable management, also for stuff like fan hubs, controllers and stuff like that from various brands, whatever you want to use. There is a lot of room for it, and I can only be happy about it, especially for people that use sleeved cables, etc. They can become quite bulky. So moving back to the inside of the chassis, if you take out the hard drive cage, actually inside here there is some opening. It's less than in the front, but there is openings for it, and there's mounting positions for the for radiators or for fans. So for example, you can get air inside on the front, and then put your radiator or your only one radiator on this side and have it exhaust again, or the other way around, whatever makes you a happy person. Yeah, so let's take the front off. Like I told you, the front panel is also plexiglass plastic. It's not from the tempered glass that we are seeing more and more. Give it a big pull, and there is the front of the case. Now there are 140mm fans fitted. Basically, you can fit 3 if you want to. You can 120mm fans, but you can see there's more openings on the side here. Thermaltake launched or showed us 200mm Ring Plus fans earlier this year at CES, and they fit the front of this chassis. Of course, then it's 2, but that means an even more silent operation usually when using bigger fans. So what do we have left? I think we got most of it. Let's talk about the ports. Yeah, I took the front off. Of course, there's power. There's the LEDs for it, the reset. There is a mic and a headphones, one in 2 USB 2 and 2 USB 3. No USB 3.1 on this one. But yeah, I think it's still in the position that we are thinking, that everyone's thinking, you know, which is first. All the chassis needs supported, or do the hardware that we use for it need to support it first. This still does USB 3. Of course, this bracket is all removable, so you can just put in your graphics card like you would normally. On the bottom there's also place for 120 or 140mm fans, so if you fancy, you could put like, I don't know, a 240 there and a 240 here. There's a lot of variations possible. I guess that's up to you. So who should buy this chassis? I think this is really a show chassis. You shouldn't, I mean, there's a lot of airflow possible in it, but you know, you really want this chassis if you want to put in like a beautiful hardware that you want to show off. I think if you put in a system with 3 graphics cards and you want to water cool it all, you're going to have a small lack of space for radiators. That's not what this chassis is intended for. So a nice system with 1 or 2 graphics cards in here, and some extra window space to show off all your glorious hardware and your RGB lighting, of course. So yeah, let me know what you think of the chassis. I think it's very nice. It gives you a bit more cooling options than the previous one, the smaller version. I think it was the View 27 that it's called. This should have enough room for that. I think maybe if ever Thermaltake would make another chassis with this style, all they would need to do is add like an inch or maybe 1.5 inch or like 5 centimeters in the front of the chassis. That way you can actually fit a radiator here and on this side, and you could even make it so, like, for example, you put a 240 here, a 240 here, and you close the entire bottom piece off like with a PSU shroud. But I guess that's me, just the case modder talking, just watching a chassis and already getting ideas when you're watching it. So that's all what it is for now with the Thermaltake View 37. Yeah, let me know what you think, and I guess I'll see you next time.